existence. And this being actually chooses to, even though it has already beaten this or has already kind of gotten out of this escape room, as we'll call it here, this being has chosen to come back and help others kind of escape this escape room as well. And so this is what's really interesting about the concept of bodhisattva. And this just kind of shows how, I mean, just take the comparison of Christ of what I just said. I mean, when we look at Christ, the Hieros Gamos, the middle pillar, we have that balance and that unification. We do have that understanding for the underlying greater scope of this existence and its purpose. And we do have that love, compassion, and understanding for all forms and all aspects of life. So this is a heavy resonance factor on how this kind of continues to showcase itself through all of these different spiritualities and all of these different religions. And there's even commonalities between Jesus and Buddha. So let's pick your brain on that real quick, Diana. I mean, do you think that there is some kind of correlation there? Do you think Buddha was a Christed being? I know in your eyes, you feel that maybe he was potentially beyond. So let's kind of touch on that for a little.
Yeah, because Buddha took us beyond, because Christ is being the best person in this life, how to be the best human, how to be the best incarnation in 3D. Like his lessons with this are absolutely like extremely, extremely vital. But the tablet, that's why I was delayed too.
It's okay. No worries. No worries. Yeah.
Okay. Well, just 1 minute. Just 1 minute. So we have Christ and he's helping the humans, be the best humans, be ascended humans even, but the best humans. Where we see with Buddha's message, he seems to be teaching people, and then like all of Buddhism as it breaks down, seems to be helping people at its purest sense escape being human, escape the wheel of samsara, escape these lower
So escape these lower densities. We'll hold space for that here. But no, yes, I completely, I resonate with what you're saying as far as Buddha goes. I do think there's some tie-ins, there's some similarities as well. Go ahead. Yep, you're back. So you were talking about escape your mic's muted, and they were talking about escape the density. Buddha was helping people escape this density.
Yeah, exactly. Buddha's like the escape ship off of this plane of existence, probably escaping the entire game completely. Something along those lines. You feel that. You feel the leaving. You feel the takeoff, the further expression of the totality of what soul can be, and into like a nothing like place where Christ is that top tier of being a human, of being the best human, compassionate human, a miracle healing human. Is still very magical. And you can still ascend to heaven on earth. And we're kind of in that area right now, playing out what that is. And we're pretty sure that message, kingdom of earth, is us manifesting with our minds. The kingdom of heaven is within you, manifesting that onto this earth with our thoughts, with our actions, with our compassion, and by doing to others as we would do unto ourselves, because that just creates these waves of energy that heal everything. Where Buddha is like, and even Jainism, if you look at Jainism, like how they just absolutely don't want to touch anything or cause any karma, because clearly they're trying to escape. So you can see similar threads, how they're all peaceful, but some are trying to make this world better, and some are trying to make it better because they care about their soul and that side of things. So you can see the same kind of results coming out, but these souls want to exit. These souls are done and they want out.
I agree with that. I think a lot of it, I mean, one of the things we can see both ends of the perspective when we're talking about, the Buddhists and the Jainists, and we think of Christ. I mean, Christ is about being the best quality, cleanest human that we can be here while we're in this incarnation. You've even had the term flesh angel. And I really like that term because it does. It fits for what we're trying to achieve here as far as our healing and our personal evolution. And ultimately, I think, it kind of goes hand in hand, when we heal and we embark on our spiritual evolution. Of course, many of us who have embarked on this evolution and we're cultivating this divine spark, this third eye bridge within us. This is our last go around here. I think, though, or could it be? That's one of the biggest questions.
Interject. Yeah. Because that's the thing I toy with as well, because I don't know, because third eye bridge, was more on the Christ path. Third Eye Bridge was bringing heaven to earth. It was how it's manifested here. It was instructions to manifest it here versus instructions to escape. So I think if that was to be a message to my soul of what I am, because we go through that and you see a lot of starseeds puzzling with that. Am I here to save everyone? But then you get tied up in their karma. To exit, this is why I think monks go to the forest and separate from us, because they're trying to leave, versus the Christian even that gets fully immersed in society because they're trying to help. And that's where starseeds need to look at themselves, because they all keep talking about escaping. Are you really trying to escape this life? Because this is a turnover process. We might be coming back a couple more times in this time period, but it should forever be getting better if we're doing it linear. I mean, if we're not, we're not. And then that can get really debatable. But just assuming we're doing it linear, I think we have a couple more goes.
Well, the one thing I want to say too is I see this, and I've been a big proponent of this, and you have as well. Is I think we're looking at like I said, when we look at for the answers to these bigger questions, very rarely do they fall in or sway at any end of the polarity spectrum. We always find out they're in the middle. They could be both things. So I think it's both things here. And I think, yes, we are supposed to try and help bring heaven to earth. And in this process, we're also trying to make sure that we ourselves don't get caught back up in this wheel of samsara. We don't end up coming back here. Of course, though, if we all are truly bodhisattvas, we're probably laughing at ourselves talking about this right now in the higher dimensional sense. They're like, they think they're done there. Yeah. That's funny.
Well, that's why I resonate with that term, because the bodhisattva, it's like they're the one step below the ascenders, because I forget is that just being a Buddha when you ascend? And then it's the bodhisattvas, and they choose, like the Titanic kind of thing. They could ascend, but they chose to stay back and help the others. So I really do resonate with that. And I think a lot of us, that's why we can get very like, it's not fair, but then we're reminded that we chose it. But that's why it's not fair, because we finished. We should have been done.
Well, no, and I'm with you. And it's funny because I've seen all the different memes for bodhisattvas. They're like, they had one with the daughter from American Dad with the baby, and it's like there's some like little attachment that we get here, and we start crying, and we're like, oh, we'll come back and help you, we promise, we're gonna come back and help you, and all of that. But really, hold on, we have a comment from Sam here. Thanks for being here, Sam. You need to heal the self and embody the values and principles of spiritual. This heals the collective, and we all escape the wheel. Exactly. This is what I was getting to, Sam. No, definitely 100%. And this is where I think it's evolved to, because like I was saying earlier about the polarity thing, we see this very much so in the old age way of thinking. It's either stay here, bring heaven to earth, or we need to escape. Screw this place. This is an escape room. And, but ultimately, when the way that we see things, I mean, heaven is a frequency, like you were said, the all is mind, the key, the having that mindset, bringing that into the mental faculty to manifest here. I think this is ultimately the biggest thing that we are kind of striving to do, because ultimately heaven is a frequency, and everything essentially I've used the TV set analogy many a times, maybe not here specifically on Church of True Christ, but I have used it on my show. Imagine that reality is a television set. We're on channel 3. Heaven is on let's say channel 8 or something like that, or it's on channel 5, whatever channel you choose it to be. We're all occupying kind of the same area frequency, the same area, the same kind of makeup, universal makeup, but heaven is just a channel on this television set. And, just like a lot of these other frequencies are. So I think that is what we're essentially doing, is we are kind of pulling these two frequencies a little bit closer together. And, we're pulling this. So these two frequencies become one. And with that, there would be really no essentially need to escape per se, because through doing that, we've liberated ourselves of the physical realm, or of the attachments of the false matrix reality. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And like one of the things you said when you were saying the TV analogy is that like some of us are getting picture in picture, so
Mhm.
like the main big screen's still kind of similar, but like we're seeing the picture in picture and it's like the better, it's the new world, it's the truth. It's like this area of information that like the Gen Pop just does not allow into their circle. And there's varied levels to this, right? Like there's varied levels to the awakening. But that's just it though. We are manifesting heaven on earth 100% because of the all is mind, because of pretty much everything in the Kybalion, because it's the matrix of how we print out reality. That's exactly what would happen. And then by sheer force of mass with collective consciousness, we spread this message. But Christ is first and foremost with a lot of this ascension situation, because when you think of the stations, like you could even look at like the Rick and Morty version, like the TV stations
Mhm.
could get crazy. This could go any which way. And we're in a time where it could go any which way. It's why things look so chaotic now. It's because a bunch of different possible timelines, as timelines are converging, are playing themselves out really, really quickly. And that can look chaotic and messy, but it's happening so fast. Like we're seeing, like, because this is just an example because I just saw it, but because my husband sent it to me, he probably assumed I'd very much like it. But we've
Mhm.
watched Joe Rogan slowly but surely switch from being like, oh, well, vaccines are great, and then maybe they should be investigated more, to straight up actually arguing with someone that was his friend and it getting heated, or they still could be friends. Like if you're mature, you should be able to argue with your friends. But where he's like, no, and he's like, look at the evidence, and he sounds like us pretty much. He sounds like us, and he's getting just as heated as us. He's like making faces like I would make if I was arguing with someone, because it's just so ridiculous the things they say on the other side. That the more you wake
Mhm.
up when you hear this stuff, then they say like we look crazy because like, oh my god, oh my god, like you're just dramatic with like hearing these sheepish, oh but science, oh but what do you say about this fact? And you could just freaking just roll your eyes on. I don't want to fucking argue with that fact because it's so stupid and it's so brainwashed into your system. Have you even asked? Like sometimes with people, I'll just say, repeat back what you just said to me. Repeat back what you just said to me and try to get them to break it down. Like you were saying something ridiculous. How do you not hear it yourself? And so we're dealing with a lot here, and that's the game. But like for us, when we take in the Christ energy, and like it's an energy, it's not like this is why toxic positivity can be bad, because you can get a glow on your system because the all is mind. And if you had your
Mhm.
conscious mind perfectly positive, in a lot of ways, it can be good. And it can be good in the early stages to retrain your brain to think positively, to not, because we are very, very brainwashed to think negatively. So that's why even when people wake up, they're still very negative about the situation, that you guys call it black pilled. Like there's all
Yeah,
these
black pill.
different ways people are awake. I was in it myself for many years, like just awake but dark. But the thing is like when you go to Christ, that's why Christ is one of those main pillars. That was my positive awakening, and not in any Christian sense, though I did try to make it that later because it was that powerful for me, that like I was just like, no, but it's birthing new. It's birthing new, and it's because it's been like almost made free by people like us that see. And then the Chinese philosophies, like a lot of people see the Tao as Christ as well, like we were talking other beings, but just like the Holy Spirit, there's other religions that believe in this Christ mystical totaling energy. So not just a being, but an energy. And that's like when you become a Christ being, what you've done is just like phase locked into that frequency and made it pretty much the totality of your being. And we've even seen that on various degrees. Like people like Mother Teresa, who did a lot of good, she's sainted. But there's stories now, because she was born in a slightly more modern age than a lot of the other saints, that she actually wasn't perfect. She wasn't a great person. Like, so like you do have levels of like, just because she was grumpy, she still did all her charity stuff, right? And even like all of us, like we can look at ourselves and go like, I am not perfect. Like I don't know what to do when kids argue over a tablet. Like I just like the old, like what would have happened? We didn't have tablets, would be like then no one gets the tablet. But instead, we're in the age now where I need to sit down and discuss this with them like a therapist. But I'm making it up as I go along, and then tapping into that Christ. And what
Sure.
would Christ do? How would Christ say this? Because that's always going to be the place that cuts out the ego. Because the ego could come in like our old parents would have done and been like, no, I'm the boss. You listen to me, don't threaten my authority, when that's neither here nor there. When they're arguing about a tablet, they're not trying to threaten your authority, dad. They're just talking about this. No one's trying to get you. Like I think our parents in the past always thought they were trying to get us, And I can kind
Mhm.
of feel like that because they can be so, I don't want to say stressful, but like the tension that comes with that kind of life. And people have it all over the place. That's just my example. People have it at work, people have it driving the street, whatever it is. When you pull in the Christ energy, that's when you swap over the all is mind to manifest heaven on earth by sending out vibrations that literally do make it so.
I completely agree. And one thing I'll add before I wanna bring something to the table real quick is, yeah, no, I hear even though I'm not a parent yet, I've heard that a vast majority of being a parent is making it up as you go. So and figuring it out as you go. So thanks for that little tidbit. But one of the things I want to talk about is prana. I think prana and is actually a form of Christ energy that we can start to utilize and we can start to bring to our awareness. And this is kind of coming from the yogic tradition of what Christ energy could be. I mean, but you look at prana and what it does. Prana is what causes the balance between the Ida and Pingala nadis. It is what powers up both your masculine and feminine sides of your body. Also, it brings life to your Shushma nadi, which is your central channel, the balance between those sun and moon energies. Also, prana is very healing. It's a layer of this reality. We talk about Christ being its own layer of reality, and prana itself is almost a layer of reality. It's an information. So I mean, I'm really starting to think that Christ energy is a form of information in and of itself that we can intake, we can breathe in. It can alter and upgrade our being when we work with it in this capacity. And I think this is kind of what a lot of the yogis, and especially a lot of the ancient yogis, were kind of hitting at when they were talking about getting their bodies to live off of this prana. It's getting your bodies to live off of this Christ energy, this potential layer of this reality that we can tap into, not just for spiritual sustenance within ourselves, but physical sustenance as well. I mean, it's possible that this layer of reality can offer a kind of physical sustenance, can kind of break the barriers of what we know as living as a being. Right? Because, as far as if we go by the consensual narrative of what living as a being is, you live till you're about 70 to 80 years old. If you're lucky. Of course, the age is increasing now. Of course, I'm a huge believer. I do think, we have a lot of spells casted on us in this reality when it comes to our longevity and things like that. But I ultimately think that prana does tie into Christ's energy. It ties into this layer of reality. I'll get your thoughts on that, Diana, real quick. Don, it is okay, man. No worries. We love you, dude. We hope everything's going okay. And yeah, so Diana, are you there? What are your thoughts on this, or shall I keep going? There we go. Oh, your mic. There we go.
I just got back, so you're gonna have to just give me.
So I was talking about prana. No, you're all good. No,
Oh
no
yeah,
worries.
prana. That's right. Prana
Yeah,
being
yeah.
Christ, because prana being chi, like because the way they describe chi, the way you do chi, qi gong. That's one of the things I like because you can feel it. It's like one of the most tangible ones when you do qi gong. Like yoga, you really feel in your body, but if you're really looking to feel your energy, qi gong is the one that I just like I'm so in for. There's so many things you can go down with that road of turning yourself on, turning yourself off if you want to relax, if you want to get going, things like that you can learn, and your meridians are all tied into that. And then being that Christ energy that we're breathing in, I agree, because I think that golden light that is like that Christ energy or whatever color you see it as, because I think it can, who knows, right? There's no point to really arguing about that stuff. But it is what I see. Like, because Ashiana Dean talks about it being a layer of reality. Not that I agree on everything, but that part, and being 12 too, right? 12 disciples, 12 zodiacs, like he's 12. That just sits at like, how
We'll hold space for the 12. So interestingly enough, I was actually watching a video on the correlations between the numbers 12 and 13. And once Diane, up there you go. So you were talking about the 12 disciples.
And 13 might be bridging out of that. But so 12, Christ. I think it's that top layer of us before, like the old philosophy.
The old philosophy. No, real quick, before she comes back. So I actually, believe it or not, I'm gonna have to start sharing this channel because a lot of interesting things have been coming into my YouTube feed. But they were okay. Go ahead, you're back again. So 12, the 12th layer.
Phone if it does it again.
Yeah, no worries.
But yeah, so it's the last layer of us that's still pure and still remembers it's God. And this is above a lot of our God beings, because a lot of our godlike beings, they know a lot more than us. And this goes galactics, or this goes actual ancient gods. Whatever you're looking at in the dimensions they live within, whether it's the 4th to the 7th to the 8th to the 9th, they're still in a layer of forgetting, right? Like, because there's layers of remembering even past human. Like, we don't all of a sudden wake up as these higher beings. Like, you speak of the Elohim, and if those Elohim were to birth they birth right below the Christ. Like, they are they are the first individuated beings out of the Christ, right? Of that energy source, and why they would hold the highest retained memory of truth, of the totality that we are God. So that's why that Christ energy that streams through us, and all these lower things, all the gods, all the things we feel stream through us. We're stream machines. And even the CIA has like documents, not that they're our ultimate proof, but just saying that means that a lot of scientific research went into it. People, they are looking for pockets to like disprove us and make us look crazy. So the fact that there's all this scientific proof on the streams, and that we are receptors for streams, it's just, that matters so much, because it's why we get so tangled. It's why the human is so complicated, because a lot say we're the lowest receiver, like we are the amalgamation of all of them, where they exist as just their stream sort of thing. And that can get really complicated. But what's not complicated is Christ. And Christ is that pure energy at our toppest layer of this universe that completely still remembers. It's like the first thing peeking its head through that still remembers the completeness of being that all-loving God, that just when God.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree with what you're saying. And this is kind of where I'm going to bring up this very interesting concept is what if Christ is the number 13? What if there is a correlation between Christ and the number 13? And the reason why I say that is we look at, so I was actually checking out this video on Ophiuchus, the 13th zodiac sign. And so I was looking at this, and the reason why I came up with this theory myself, that there is a correlation between Christ and the number 13, is we know that anything that is literally here etched into this reality to help liberate us, to help wake us up, is instantly demonized. It's instantly frowned upon. It's looked down upon. It is said that it is evil, anything to kind of deter and to sway your focus away from that. They're going to pull out all the stops, say it's evil, say it's of the devil. And I mean, we look at the connotation the number 13 has gained over the years, and we actually see that, 13 is the number of awakening. It really is. It was never meant to be bad luck. In fact, 13 was meant to be a very lucky number. You know what I mean? And this also shows the power of the human collective consciousness, though, because I know a lot of people are going to go out and say, well, then why do bad things always happen on Friday the 13th? And that's because of how the perspective the collective has placed on that number, that has shifted the energy of it. It's almost like an inversion of sorts. This is the power of our collective consciousness when we take a lie and we see it as truth. This is ultimately where the inversion factor kind of starts to play in and starts to taint the energy of these sacred concepts. And that's why, I mean, you look at right now, one of the biggest things I'm going to say is, even with modern Christianity, why are there so many demons in the ranks of the church at this point in time? If, this is something that if the modern format of Christianity is really the way we're supposed to be going, why are there so many demons in the ranks of the church? And so, like, this is what I mean. I think, that when we look at the number 13, I know we kind of went off on a tangent, but this is something I've been thinking about for a little, and I wanted to put it all out here. I think 13 does signify Christ, and I think that's why they changed it to 12. I think that's why it was shifted down to 12 to deter us. And we see what they did with Christ. They took Christ and they made him some kind of immaculate being, because ultimately Christ said we could do the things he does. We are going to shift into what he can do. We can become like him. And they wanted to make Christ seem like this immaculate figure where this was so unobtainable for the average human being. They wanted to make his level of consciousness seem unattainable and make him the only son of God. So I think that ties into that too. There's a very interesting tie in there. I just want to get your thoughts.
Oh yeah, 100%, because it's said right there, like, and you're right, they put I don't even think because they put the emphasis on the 12, but with those with eyes to see shall see. And Jesus is the 13th. There's 12 disciples. And then with Jesus, that's 13. They were a group of 13. So that right there is your 13. And then we have the 13th zodiac, which, again, that's collective consciousness, because I think a lot of people would actually say that they resonate with their birth charts. But then I think we do feel that kind of changing, especially as we wake up and more people are realizing how vast astrology is. It's doing something to the psyche where we're like, oh, I'm more complex than I realized. It did that for me in spades, where I'd like see, and you see why you have contradictory opinions and ideas. And you can really start to untie yourself and start to just go, what's brainwashing and what's not? But like, even as we do that, like, are we switching to a 13th system? Because I do resonate with the 13th sign, because that's the one I'm born in. Technically, if that's part of the system, then I'm in it. And I am it. But then what does that mean? And I know that there's a lot of people, like, for example, my sister-in-law would become a Sagittarius then. And I'm like, and it's like, not.
I would be an Aries then, but then see, here's the thing: is I have traits of, but yeah, I have both traits. I have traits of a Taurus and an Aries. You know what I mean? Like, there's things about me, because even in the Vedic sense, that's why like in the Vedic sense I'm an Aries, but in the Western sense I'm a Taurus. And it's funny because I have traits of both, but I think you also have traits of both. Being a Sagittarius and also being Ophiuchus at the same time.
Exactly. And then in Vedic, I'm a Scorpio. I guess I could kind of see it, but see, I don't really resonate. But if we were to stick, I do resonate with the 13th sign, though. That one I actually really resonated with, like, a lot more so even than being a Sagittarius, because I'm just not that cool. Like, Sagittarius are like the smooth cats, and that's just like,
Well, I'm not that cool either, so we're in that same boat together. But,
Starseeds in general end up they have that same relating factor, because we could see things no one else could see. We had weird situations no one else had. Like, there was all this background information that we talked, like different contact things. Like I saw ghosts, like people heard stuff, people, like all of these stories that were like, we're a freak, no one else. But then all of a sudden we have this group, like this, of hundreds of thousands of people now that cross over through the online world, that they're like, oh my God, me too. And it's like, whoa, I wasn't alone. I was just like alone with the people I knew. And then that kind of puts us in, you see that the new human's already here, like lots, just from our age bracket alone. It's a lot of us, because even the ones that are still sheeple, I could see that they could easily be a starseed if they just open their eyes, versus when I see a boomer, like I love an awakened boomer, but like when I see an asleep boomer, I see asleep. Yeah. I mean, I hope you still wake up. Like, my dad might be coming around, but at the same time, it's just like your odds of them waking up at this point, it's increasing the lower you go. And I think like people like millennials, Gen Zs, and even the alphas, they're kidding themselves if they're not living as a starseed. Like, they're kidding themselves. And I think that's why you see more discontention in those those generations, even Gen X. It did start kind of in Gen X, where there's like this whole, I think, the grunge 90s of people just being like, everything sucks, what's going on, like the irony there with Rage Against the Machine, and then now they speak for the government. So like age will do things to you, but not necessarily. And it shows that the Gen Xers had it when they were first young, but a lot of them let themselves get sucked into the system and go to sleep.
Well, that's the same thing with the boomers too. The boomers are the ones who
Yeah.
I would say for sure are sitting at tables that they were supposed to flip.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely are, but that's kind of where I do have a little bit of empathy for them in that fashion, because they were conditioned from the get-go to not feel their feelings. That was beaten out of them at a very young age, because like they have the old propaganda films from it was the late 50s, early 60s, where they're telling people to not feel their feelings. Your feelings are an inconvenience to somebody else, is basically what the whole premise of this was. And what this did is it disconnected. And that's where I think kind of the whole reverberation of the hippie culture came into play, because some of them were like, oh, screw you guys, we're going to feel our feelings, and we're going to dig even deeper into this, and we're going to start this revolution. So, and I think, but still at that point, I mean, that makes you think how ingrained the conditioning could have been for the boomers, because even though they led the counterculture movement of the 60s. This was supposed to be the original awakening. This is when it was kind of really supposed to take off. But of course, there are forces at play here that try to divert and disengage that. And they do. And that's kind of like one thing. You were talking about Rogan earlier, kind of changing his stance on vaccines. This is the one thing I'm going to say. And of course, everybody here knows my opinion. I think they're all in on it. Absolutely, they are. And I do think that's being done. It could be being done for an altruistic reason. Don't get me wrong. But I do think it's also being done because of who Rogan is. And if this does start to become a narrative or an ideology that does kind of start to permeate the collective consciousness, Rogan can be somebody who ropes it in and keeps it on a surface level for people so they don't look any further. And this is just kind of like the patterns I've noticed with these figureheads in this community. Well, not even just in our community, the spiritual community, the alternative media, and the counterculture paradigm that we're all currently in. But never mind, I went off on a tangent there. But this has been an interesting Sunday. But let's dive into this. So one of the biggest things I want to start talking with everybody is these clarity events that I think are going to be approaching us here very soon. I know a lot of people, including Diana here, me, a lot of the other people that we talk to, we're starting to get what I would call an enhanced spiritual clarity. We're starting to remember on a deeper level. We're starting to realize the nature of our existence here, our place for it here, and the deeper nature of existence in general on a more clearer level. So what I kind of foresee starting to happen here, because we hear the spiritual community talk about 2026 and 2027 are going to be big years from the energetic sense, you know what I mean? And of course, when a lot of people hear this, they're like, oh yes, like everything's going to come burning and crashing down. We're going to dance and we're going to frolic as the matrix burns in the background. It's going to be a great time. It's not that I'm trying to dispel that ever happening. Trust me. I look forward to the day we're all dancing and frolicking as the Matrix reality burns around us and we've succeeded. Don't get me wrong. But what I do think these years are going to have for us on a spiritual level is we're going to be removing these massive layers of forgetting. I think this is what's ultimately going to shift what we're currently doing here on this planet as well, because the more we understand, the more it shifts. This is a message that was really clearly beaten into me by my guides is the more that we understand ourselves and our nature here, the more that this reality shifts along with that understanding. So this is where I think it's all going to kind of come into play is I think these years, 26 and 27, are going to bring forth what I would call a removal of these layers of this forgetting, these very big layers of course, I'm using a Gnostic term when I say this, the forgetting, but I think it fits because, we all have kind of forgotten. And this is a remembering. And what I think is going to happen with these clarity events is the more remembering we get, the more this reality shifts. And this even kind of plays into the plausible deniability factor of everything. We know that these higher entities, these higher beings, whether they be on the lower frequency scale or they be on the higher frequency from the higher frequencies, they cannot have direct infiltration or direct correlation here. At least for the time being, this all kind of plays on us. We're the infantry here. We're the front lines. We're the ones who are shifting this all. So what I ultimately think this is going to be part of this strange alchemical transmutation we're going through is the more that we remember and the more that we blast the forgetting away, the more ultimately that's going to have this greater impact on this reality as a whole in order to shift it towards bringing heaven to earth. What are your thoughts, Diana?
Yeah, and how I see that working realistically, because when I see that's not gonna, things aren't just gonna be torn down, and people need to realize it's already happening. Every time one of those reports come out of what they've done, that's up to you. You were just given information. What are you doing about it? That's why I started the news show. Because the news itself will say it once and then never say it again because they're trying to make themselves, because they know it's happening. They're just trying to spare themselves the embarrassment. They know it's over. It's over already. That's why Joe Rogan being the population that he touches alone, it's over. It's done. And now it's just waiting for everybody else to realize it.
No, I completely will hold space for you. No, I completely agree. And this is where, we've talked about on this show before. You even brought it up at the beginning of the show. We're so conditioned to look at the negative, even those. Okay, go ahead. You were saying it's endgame.
It's end game for them. It's already over. And everything that came out about Fauci, not just now. People talk about now. What he did now wasn't even the worst of it because all the countries were giving the vaccines. He was just one of the stooges of them. He wasn't even he was just one of them, right? Because every country did it, mine included. What he's actually evil for, or also evil for, is the stuff he did in the 80s. They pushed AIDS into America in specific zones New York and San Diego and Los Angeles on purpose, wherever they knew there was a higher homosexual rate. They did that on purpose, on purpose. They also took large sects of groups. Honestly, they took entire orphanages and they injected all the kids with them and took them all out at once because they were still playing around. It was tests and it was just awful. And my husband actually told me about that one. And he was just it was one of the biggest thing. He still references it to people when he's talking about this stuff because everyone has their thing that shook them. That was his thing that shook him, hearing about that. And Fauci's attached to that because these are all projects that there's a bunch of people attached to. So we have Epstein and that's already come out. I guarantee you Trump saying I don't know if you heard this and tell me if it's fake news, but that Trump was an FBI agent against Epstein. I saw that as a thing. Is that
you froze up and I'll pick up on this. Yeah, that's been a recent theory coming out. And this is what I will say. This is what I will say on that topic is the FBI likes creating shit to bust so they look good. And it's funny. It's so what, and same thing with the CIA here. So the FBI and the CIA. Yeah, I'm talking to you guys, you little fucking sneaky fucks. But the thing about this is, though, this is the thing. The FBI has been known to put covert agents against themselves to cause this bust just to make it look like they're doing something in the image of the public.
because I think why Trump's putting this out. So if you haven't heard that directly, it might not even be true then whatsoever. But it's
Well, I'll hold space for you on that till you come back. Yeah, no. That's kind of what I think. I think when I hear that, because there have been many different instances here. Up there you are. Go ahead. What were you saying? don't get frustrated. It's okay. We're all having a morning today. We're all having a morning. Yeah.
I switched to my phone. It's doing the exact same thing.
It's
So
okay. No worries. Yeah.
I've heard actually Raquel told me to try something else because it might just be StreamYard for me, just me though.
That's kind of weird. That's what I think it is because I'm using StreamYard right now. And so I don't know.
What just happens to me, and maybe it's the computer, I don't know. Anyways, I think if that's even true news, but if it's not, it's a good way. I don't care if he even lies about it. Go ahead, say you're an FBI agent. Sure. But if it gets them to release the list, and then because that's important. I know everyone wants to stop talking about it's distraction. You mean it's distracting to know all the bad guys' names? Oh, that's distracting. No, that's a narrative in itself, because guess what? We're multifaceted. We could be asking for the Epstein list and see whatever other malevolent plots are going on, because there are many. And at this point, we kind of know the main ones, list an industry that we don't even think is corrupt. I'm pretty sure we've discovered every single thing that's a major industry is corrupt, including the fashion industry. That was a huge one, corrupt. Food industry, corrupt. Medical industry, corrupt. Construction industry, hilariously long time known, corrupt, because the whole mob, right? They're OG corrupt. And there's just any time, this is why they wanted to eradicate the mom and pop, because they were eradicating the mafia and they were controlling all the smaller things, because they were still making it global, right? Not every place had the mafia, but you know what I mean? They got those, a lot of power is made. People don't realize they designed it after the mafia. How politics is run and how industries are run now is all mafia. That's why the mafia went away, because they found a way to be legal about it, literally, because it's all corrupt blackmail, extortion, and profit building off each other, and they don't care about the little person. But they have to get rid of and that's where COVID was, I think, the biggest attack on is small businesses, because if they get rid of small businesses, they get rid of individuation, and they just continue to force us 15-minute cities into these boxes of these industries, because they're all corrupt and money corrupts. So you take normal people, even if they weren't born evil, by the time they get that point, they're corrupt. Now, what I think the answer is this. So you go run for mayor. Everybody's been watching you here for years. Even those ridiculous TikTok people that film their real lives, those should be if we're going to have politicians, that should be it. And you can still get levels of fakeness and everything, but people that went to Harvard and have been groomed by the top elites their entire lives. I have a video I want to run on the news the next time I do it, talking about how the systems of schools, specifically public schools, are made to make workers, and the rich schools are made to connect them to other rich people and keep them rich. And they're churning out factories of rich kids, poor kids, rich kids, or middle class kids still, because middle class is poor now because the rich have gotten so rich, and it's just ridiculous. So we eliminate that because people reality stars have taught us the power of collective consciousness, whether you want to call the majority of them ridiculous, because they are. But that's why that was Vivek something.
Vivek Ramaswamy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big because he was speaking to the people like Jordan Peterson, we know them. We've heard from them for years. Could they still end up getting corrupted? Sure. But they're going to have a harder time doing it because we've watched them so much. We've learned from them so much. There's just something different about them versus the clear people that went to Harvard. They've always been millionaires. They're still doing it. Some of them have I'm from a middle class family. That's why they love to throw that in your face. I'm from a middle class family. I know what it's like. Yeah, no, but then you went to Harvard yourself and got tied up with all these people, and there you go. Because that's why poor people want to get into Harvard. That's the real reason, or Yale or Princeton, because once you do it, you're signing your deed for the rest of your rich life, because you are now going to network with all the same people. And that's how these people get into these dark circles. And then it just creates these ridiculous power structures, but by simply shining a light on it. That's why the light. We see what you're doing, sacrificing children and burning owls. It's gross. and just continuing to see that, continuing to spread it, continuing to just change things, because then when we get the option of a regular politician, because I know people want to do no voting, but the thing is only a couple people have to vote, and that's the election. It doesn't matter if a million don't vote. If one guy does, that guy wins, like it's not actually a practical way. Like, we have to be mature about this. Like, we can be as magical as we want, but we also have to be mature. And I know that's hard for a lot of people to realize, but it's the truth. And it hurts me too. I was an anarchist, but then I just had to wake up and realize. And by waking up and realizing I need to change my life practically versus I need to just sit there and pray and meditate on it, the practical is actually what gets it done. And that's looking at two different politicians and going, which do I see more? And it will start to inspire people like us to start going into politics and things like that. And then show yourself the whole time. Like Pierre, our guy, that he actually didn't get in, but he made huge waves. He tried to do that. He tried. They are getting the message. So I'm not even making this up. I see them doing it. One of our guys that didn't get in, he wears a turban, and he tried this like video where he's talking about politics, but he's redoing his turban the whole time. But I got it. I've got what he's trying to do. He's trying to, but they're regular politicians trying to do it. The point is and it was obvious. It was.
No, I'm with you. And one thing I'm gonna hold space for you. It seems like there's something going on here in the collective consciousness when it comes to at least our community, because you just said something about me running for mayor. A lot of people have said things about like, oh, you should run for president, Steve. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, I'm just like, the inner anarchist in me just cringes when people say that. It does.
But that's what it has to be. It needs to be people that find it cringe, because they're going to be the ones, because it's so cringe. So go in there and make changes. And then they talk about people have been trying and then they get killed off for years. Yeah, that's true. Okay. And now, because of this sheer force of mass, we finally stand a real chance. So not just you, like you and every guy in every town in all of Colorado, be one of the people on the ballot. And that's just how you begin.
I completely agree with that. I just, you're not the first person who said you need to run for mayor. And I'm just like, man, dude, it's like,
a great mayor.
Oh my God. Thanks guys. But of course, like, yeah, no, there's that, me potentially running for the city council of my town in 2027. I guess the divine is pushing me to do it. I guess it is what it is. Everybody keeps saying it, and of course, like, I'm going to get a little inappropriate for church when I say this though. But ultimately I'm going to say that I don't believe in smoking pole to get ahead. So that's just all I'm going to say. We're going to leave it at that. And of course, one of the last things I want to touch on real quick, of course, not exactly a church appropriate subject, but it definitely has to do with Christ. But I want to talk about the past South Park episodes that have come up. There we go. Coffee stained mug. What's up, man? Food for thought. When you dance with the devil doesn't change. The devil changes you. Exactly. So like, yeah, there's a lot of apprehension on my end when it comes to certain things, like doing something along those lines, but we'll see. If I get a major sign here before 2026 that this is something I need to do, I will let you guys know.
I am your sign. That was the sign. That was the sign.
That was the sign, she said. So I want to talk about the recent South Park episodes. And
yeah, I even showed my daughter the little boo boo one, and it's pretty messed up. But
so it's dude, I couldn't believe they were bringing up like Mesopotamian gods and shit in South Park. But anyways, like that was like, oh my God.
And Sumerian. Yeah. And Jesus is the counselor now. Like, oh, they're flipping and they hate Trump now. They used to like him. We knew Trump was fucking Satan.
dude, the play on words with that was
you knew what they were saying. Yeah, they're calling
yes, exactly. Exactly. But dude, the other thing they're telling us very blatantly, at least in my eyes, is we all need Jesus. I mean, look at as
our counselor. That's what
like,
Bible. Yeah. You need to take Jesus as your personal counselor. So they're straight up. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, dude, they're definitely. I'm going to tell you this. Matt and Trey are definitely in on it. They're in on it. They know. And you know, I mean, who the hell takes fucking a 10 strip of LSD before going to a comedy award back in, I think it was like 19, that they both were on LSD or something back. It
Oh
was like
yeah,
either
we love
19.
them. We used to watch all their movies, like Orgasmo and Basketball, or no, not Basketball, Basketball.
Basketball, all that shit, dude. So like, no, they're definitely they're in the know. They know what's going on. And so, but no, that I just thought it was so. They're laying it out as clear as day. They are saying we need Jesus as our counselor, and that's something I, you know, like I said, I couldn't agree with more. 100%. Like the fact that they're portraying this message, you know, and they're telling us that, yo, we need Jesus as our counselor,
And that's
and
another sign we've won, because they're
yeah,
incepting. TV shows incept. I like they incept, good or bad, they incept. And that one's all good now. Like I think, I don't know. We'll see, because everybody has their own views. I feel like some, I don't know, I felt they had dicey. I feel like we've watched their spiritual evolution, put it that way. And everybody in a spiritual evolution, like sometimes I look back at some of my videos and I'm like, oh no, but I leave them because you got to watch the journey. This is why you never, and
but okay, so I'll hold for what you were saying. Like, no, and so I was actually talking to a friend of mine about this, and that's why they think Matt and Trey are part of Q. They think they always have been. They've been part of the whole Q thing going on.
that'd be
I
cool.
mean, because if you look at you know, Q it pushes a lot of things towards Christ too. Of course, you know, how they're pushing it, of course, is up to
Did you ever
interpretation.
watch sorry to Mr.
No,
Robot?
okay.
Mr. Robot, is that what it's called? Just is it Mr. Robot, with the guy that plays Queen? And it's a show, and it's basically about like
No,
a
I've
Q
not.
type person, and this Q type person is like just like Q. It's the story of Q, and it's rallying them on truth and creating all this stuff. But at the end of it, it turns out he's schizophrenic, and it's his character's not Q, and it might be Mr. Robot or something, and he is that person. He had schizophrenia, just like Fight Club. I think they were inspired from Fight Club and Q, and they put it together. And it turns out it's him. But I think that message is just like Tyler Durden, because like that's what people say now, like we are
Mhm.
Q, like that's that internal gnosis, like coming through, that's channeling, you know what I mean? It's bringing through that higher wisdom.
Well, what made me start to take the Q thing a little bit more seriously, and of course, and this is my perspective on the Q thing, and I think this should be everybody's perspective, but of course, I can't force anybody. It's not something to become overly attached to with a cult like mentality,
A bunch of people
but
pretend to be it, yeah, because a bunch of people
yeah,
pretend, yeah.
yeah, but there's something there to look at, especially when I was doing my own research into the pre-Nicene texts, finding the Gospel Q, which was direct word of mouth sayings from Jesus himself, that were just written down as he was saying them. I mean, how much closer to the source can you get with that, when it comes to getting as close to that incarnation of Christ as you possibly can, is having that direct word of mouth scripture. So I kind of saw that symbolism filter down. So I'm like, wait a minute, I didn't know Q was an actual gospel. So like, now that I know that Q is an actual gospel that is not recognized by any of the canonical texts, why? I don't know. That of course we probably have an opinion as to why that could be. But the fact that now we have Q, and Q is pushing us towards Christ, but Q is also a gospel of Christ. I mean, is it possible? I'm going to throw this question out there. Is it possible that Q could be some kind of Christ energy egregore? Is it possible that Q could be some kind of Christ energy egregore that has kind of gained some kind of awareness, some kind of sentience, from this influx of all of this awakening and this remembering going on? This is what's feeding this Q egregore, and this is what's causing this energy to kind of start to manifest itself
Mhm.
into the physical sphere. Because I mean, even when we were talking about with South Park, the South Park creators telling them we need Jesus as our counselor, and them potentially being a part of this Q thing that's going on. I mean, again, like there's some interesting patterns that are just starting to showcase themselves. And Of course, they try to label pattern recognition as a mental illness, but as we all know, you're just a damn smart human being
Yeah.
if you recognize the patterns.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? And that's what showed even in Mr. Robot. Like, I don't think it's Mr. Robot. I don't know that he was a
Was
genius.
it Dr.
Mhm.
Roboto? I don't know.
No, it's
I don't
Mr.
know. I guess.
Robot with the guy that plays Queen. That's what my
Okay.
husband's a genius for. I'll be like, "What's the guy that says the thing about the thing?" And he'll be like, "Blah blah blah" from this movie, and I'm like, "Yes." And it's like
That's
it's like
awesome.
a superpower. But yeah, because
Dude,
he's
that's
schizophrenic. That's what turns out he's schizophrenic, and I think a lot of us in our spiritual awakening can say we felt schizophrenic emotion moments, like schizophrenic minutes, like even large periods of time where you're just like, because the information, it's cognitive dissonance is what it is, and how much you let the cognitive dissonance wear you down, because it's not nothing, like, because we think of ourselves as a body, yeah, and then energy body, yeah, but the mind body is part of the energy body.
100% agree. No, the mind body, the three minds are definitely part of the energy body for sure. Right? Yeah.
Exactly, and that's how you get schizophrenia, because and that's why it's like one of the more dangerous things. It's not even so much a disease as it is you got tangled up in the energies. Like they contact spirits. I know firsthand they can be dangerous. Like my grandmother is like one of them, and but I actually looked at like she was an untrained shaman, and I'm like, it's like I have a wise sage grandma, even if she didn't know it. And she predicted computers, she predicted debit cards, she predicted like the levels of fraud that would come into the computer systems. She predicted like so many things way ahead of its time, but then she got stuck with demons because like she didn't have the proper education. But us in this world, this is why you'll see some of us get into schizophrenic emotions but then get out of it. Sometimes you watch chant like certain people, like I know we all love, like, I don't want to, David Wilcox, he's not that bad, but like we've watched him from an early stage be kind of cool. You could see he had an ego, like there was an ego always there, but he was trying to be humble and he was doing well. But then, especially on Gaia, and I don't know if he just maybe just tampered it down for Gaia, but then all of a sudden you watch his YouTubes and you see, and he's like got like his eyes shine, like you could see it. His eyes are bigger and they shine, and he's like got this manic glow about him as he talks about his stuff. And now all of a sudden he doesn't make as much sense, and it's like, but he so thinks he makes sense. It's almost like when you're in that hysteria, like when you really, really, really think you definitely have it, question if you're maybe going a little schizophrenic-y. Because I don't think we should ever completely have it, because we don't. It's coming in, it's being made manifest. Like when I talk about being all in on that Kybalion, if you read it though, it's very like, okay, everything's a vibration. Yeah, but that's scientifically proven. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of a very vague thing. It's not like such a specific, this plot is coming and this is it, right? Because we're dealing with timeline amalgamations and all these things, but it will cause a schizophrenic like situation. But again, going to Christ, middle pillar, will like keep you pure and in the middle and make you continue to make rash decisions, because people have made some decisions when they're spiritually awakening that like gives the whole thing a bad name, put it that way, like cults that used to go fanatic, things like
Oh
that.
yeah.
Where if you take this information as it comes, because that's what this ascension is. That's what we're seeing. We're going to see things turn over little by little by little, slowly but surely. The systems will have to, because we can see what they're doing, like we just see it.
Oh, absolutely, man. Absolutely. And this is where I'm going to say again, going off the deep end at least once in your life does build character. It does. It
A little
builds,
bit,
it builds,
yeah.
it builds a lot of character. So yes, we have had these schizophrenic like moments where, it almost, it completely, it rips us apart at like the very fabric of our being. And that's why everybody saw my reply to that guy's post on X, where I was like, as much as I have no hate on Mott, if you're listening at all, no hate towards you. I think you're great. I just, there's certain things that I agree with and I disagree with. And then, but she's like, don't lose yourself in the process. But I'm like, but here's the thing though. Like, here's the thing. Sometimes if the old version of you is no longer suiting your evolution, losing the old version and gaining an upgraded version of
It's kind of
you
the
is a
point.
great.
I think you're supposed to
Yeah.
continuously lose yourself, and then what's meant to be will come back. Like I've had that many times where like I thought I was a completely different person for years, but then it's been these last couple years that it started to come back, and I'm like, oh, I thought you were gone forever, and I had to reintegrate it because some of it was still problematic. But
Mhm.
it came into the upgraded mind at least, but it was interesting because you can't leave it all behind. But if it's authentically yours and authentically broken, it'll come back and you'll still have to fix it. But you just have to make sure you're doing this, because the thing is like, don't lose yourself. Like, what do you mean? Do you mean like never change the ego, or do you mean like don't be fake and like fake, because there's two different ways. Like, you can be authentic and still abandon the self, right? Or you could be fake and abandon the self. So it depends, really. Like,
It,
and
it
it's
does.
it's one of those things that's just the complete rebirth of Earth, and you're seeing it everywhere.
Oh, 100%. I agree with that. It is. I mean, it depends on where it's pertaining to. Of course, like, don't lose yourself in the terms of dimming your authenticity. Never do that. No, that's not a life worth living, man. It's not. It's like I see so many people every day do it too, dude. And it's like, of course, like, we can't be the guys with the megaphone to go up to him and be like, just fucking smile, god damn it. Just smile. It's okay to fucking smile. Like, you don't have to walk around with this fucking, that's why I call it the collective resting bitch face. Because it is. It's almost like there's a collective resting bitch face. Everybody's walking around like this, like, and I'm like, dude, just fucking smile. It's all good. But like, it's don't dim your authenticity at all, But however, like, I mean, everybody comes to that point, and this is where they come to the point to say the spiritual evolution, or ever since I woke up, my whole life has been destroyed. No, it's not that your whole life has been destroyed. You have trauma bonded to toxic people and toxic places and familiarity. And that is what the Christ spirit and the spiritual evolution is doing for you, is it's ripping you away from everything that does not service you anymore. And of course, when we trauma bond ourselves through a sense of familiarity to toxic people, places, actions, behaviors, whatever, that trauma bond is going to make it seem like something close is getting ripped away from you. And but in reality, it's doing something for you. And that's the
And
perspective.
it's maddening. That was perfect, because that's exactly it. And you have to. And it can be maddening because you feel that awakened part wanting to do it, the higher self coming online. But the older self, it's like, I'll just die. Like, that's why I talk about, like, I had it really dramatic. Like, I was like, I'll die before I, like, because it didn't seem like I could change. It felt like they were asking me to die. Like, that's how serious it can be. Like, it felt like I was being told to just die then, because they were telling me to do all these things that were so like, and they're so silly now when you look back. You're like, whoa, spoiled brat much. It's like not even cool. It's like, but that's like humanity. I was saying the other day, they actually are a wad of spoiled brats. And I know a lot of us do have like kind of poor me stories, but in the end of the day, the refusal to awaken, if you're to tell me the reasons, it's going to come off as spoiled,
It is 100%. And we see a lot of people having, even in our community, the poor me, the woe is me mentality
They
still.
don't
And
realize
I
you have to
hope,
keep improving. It never stops. You just get
yeah.
used to it. Sometimes.
Well, that's why a lot of the things I say, it's like right now we need to pull up our big boy pants and our big girl pants and do what needs to be done.
And become
You know,
politicians.
maybe that, I don't know, but yeah, I was saying more. Let's flip all the tables, but but I guess for the sense
Maybe
of
that's why I
keeping
see the goatee gone, because like you'll be in like a suit and like whatever
no.
politicians wear.
No, the goatee is still staying even if there's a suit on. Okay, all right, but that's essentially what it is. That's why I tell everybody, because change is the only constant. We're always forever growing. We're always forever changing, and right now that's to me is the pivotal thing. I even feel it when I think about the topic. I feel it within me, and I'm like, well, what if all of us just got up and said, screw this, and flipped all of the tables? But then within me, I feel this immense collective fear. And that's where it's all coming from. Because again, our whole collective has trauma bonded itself to a corrupt, unsalvageable system. And through that trauma bond, even though it's like the definition of a trauma bond. I'm gonna like just lay it out like that. And and that's where I say, I'm like, well, we just need to pick up our big boy pants and our big girl pants and do this and just do what needs to be done. But then I feel the collective apprehension. They're like, well, if we do overthrow this, what's next? Like, oh my God, who's gonna protect my family? Who's gonna do this? Who's gonna do that? And like that, the ultimate thing I gotta say is like, You are responsible for protecting yourself and your family. If you're relying on a government to protect yourself and your family, your perspective is already
Exactly.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
To a large
that's where it is.
degree, I think the whole space should be safe. Mhm.
I got
Like, if we were in a safe and trusted environment, like, what's the government even do? I like what Nick was talking about, how we'll still need I like your conversation, I love that, that was so good.
Thank you,
Um,
appreciate it.
we'll still need you guys should keep doing that because that just can't be talked about enough. But that we'll still have some kind of police. But I like the idea of peacekeepers, like show up and be ready to counsel. And I know that sounds awful, and you can still be big and huge and be okay to grab them, but be show up and be ready to counsel them and show up and like I had that experience. I didn't do it, but my sister called the police on my one sister just because she was screaming and she wouldn't stop. And we'd had eviction warnings because we'd be too loud with our parties. So she called the police because just I don't know to punish my other sister. Because she wasn't anyways. But the police showed up and like I'm so scared of the police. But this was actually really nice. My sister's sitting there and she just ends up starting to cry and she's clearly wasted. But the guy just sits there with her and says, "What's wrong, hon?" And like she's talking about how we're the bad guys and we're awful and we've done so many things. And then he's just like, "Oh yeah." And he like talks her through it all. It was actually that's what needs to be. If something's going on, show up and like talk to the people. Like talk what's wrong. Instead of pulling out your guns like when a husband and wife are fighting or something, or have separation, like separate people. I don't know. We got to work through it. Not people not drinking would fix a lot of that. But like we're
I
working
would agree.
towards a better society. And we're it's going to be little inch at a time as we start to actually see, thanks to the internet, what works and what doesn't, and start to implement what works and what doesn't, and then start to realize that we can't. It's true that we cannot rely on the government itself doing this all by themselves, but we're right here. We have a voice. They want us to feel otherwise, and turning off the news will have a lot to do with this. So we don't need to burn down the government because we're a long way off from not needing one. In fact, there's always a governmental system. Always, even when you're higher beings, there's always we live in a hierarchical
System of
universe.
order.
The whole universe is hierarchical, so that's always going to be a situation where some people they go in for more responsibility and some people go in to have more fun, and that's just authentic. That's just the way it is. That's their archetypes, and that's fine. Versus like people doing it for power and domination. But that comes to us and that comes to us seeing. So one thing that will be removed, and it's already it's already doing great, put it that way. And that's the news. The news has to go. We are the news. And that's not to say any one of us are perfect either, but we're not paid for a message and we're just saying what we see and then what we think about it. And then that helps everybody else. Nobody should believe anybody's thoughts. But let's say I watch a bunch of people talk about how the government should be, you really start to see like, oh, well, I like this part of Nick's idea, and I like this part of Steven's idea, and I like this part of Diana's idea. And we start to actually neuro network ourselves a new way of doing things in the medical industry and all of them.
Ultimately, no, and I do agree with you. And like I said, I agree with everything you just said, because like I said, I would love to see 8 billion anarchists just running around this earth, like fucking all living in harmony. Great vision for me. I know we're far from that though. We are. And ultimately, what we really need to do is we need to destroy the illusion of scarcity and we need to destroy the illusion of division. If we alone do that, because scarcity is an illusion. They're just trying to make things seem like they're scarce. So we're in constant survival and not in creator mode. Because the minute this collective swaps from survival mode to creator mode, it's absolute end game. It's absolute end game then too, because that's where, even though I don't agree with him anymore, that's where one thing from Sadhguru, when I listened to the old days of Sadhguru, that one thing he said that I really resonated with me is most people in this world are byproducts of creation. You have to swap into being a creator in creation. And most people don't have that inner awareness or haven't awoken to that fact yet, but ultimately that's what we're looking at. That's what the illusion of scarcity does, is it puts people into being byproducts of creation as opposed to actually walking into their true creator state and being a creator within creation. And then so this is the first aspect. If we could just topple these two things, like of course, like at that point we would be able to work together to keep the government in check, is ultimately the goal that we should be doing here. is because I'm going to be honest with you. Yes, I know there's some people who need to be told what to do. Absolutely. I can't tell you how many times I drive into my freaking grocery store and shopping carts are strewed all over the fucking parking lot. And sometimes I even take them in myself. Like they'll even be like, "Whoa, thanks for that, dude." I'm like, it annoys the shit out of me. It's like an OCD thing of mine, but there are people who need government. Yes. And that's where but we also, this is the perspective I think we should take is government is there for helping maintain a sense of order. That's all. It's not there to permeate our beliefs.
It's
It's
to
not there.
organize. Yeah, it's just to
It's
organize
not
and
there.
facilitate. Like student council. How is student council in school? They just organized and facilitated. That's it.
Well, it's also too the people. It's not treating it the way it is now. These people are supposed to work for us. They're supposed to be our employees. And
Exactly.
people. So my question about this too is like a boss, like because I've been a boss before. One thing that it was an absolute no-go with me was my employees being secretive and not telling me the whole fucking truth. And we have people in this society that are completely okay with their employees being secretive and not telling them the whole truth.
Or they're
And
politicians.
so that,
Yeah. Oh, of
yeah,
course they lie.
yeah,
They all lie. That's just being a politician. Like, be
yeah,
honest.
yeah,
If you
yeah.
have an affair, I don't care. Like this whole pretending they're a perfect family, and with the scandals, I don't give an F. I used to be a drug addict. I had an affair. I did this. I did that. I'm running for mayor, and this is my plan. Like they don't need to tell us their faults necessarily, but if it comes up, just be like, yeah, I did that. Yep. Like,
Well, dude, it's a bunch of casting it's living in a glass house and casting stones with these fucking people. And that's exactly what it is, because there is not one human being that walks the face of this earth that did not do something somewhat heinous. And if anybody tells you that they haven't, they're fucking lying through their teeth.
or they're living a
Like,
very false life, or they're living a
they're
very
living.
false life. I think Jessica's. I have this like version of like a Jessica that they just live a perfect life, but they're very
But
not real.
is this name archetypal like Steven was for you? Is it like
Yeah,
Jessica? You
it
just
is.
use it
Yeah,
as the
exactly.
example.
It's my own archetype. Yeah, the Jessica. That's when people call my sister Jessica because her name is Jessie. It's always been Jessie. I'm like, she is not a Jessica. She's a Jessie.
Is this the Kyle one? If you don't
Yep,
mind me
yep,
asking.
yep.
Yeah.
That one.
Ladies, if every man you have dated has the same name, the divine is trying to tell you something. All right, it's like you need to switch out of this name category, and you need
Yeah.
to go to another name.
Talk about an archetypical lesson. Yeah, she had to learn the lesson of the Kyle.
Well, shit, guys. Well, all right, guys. We'll close it out for today. But thanks for joining us for another Church of True Christ Sunday sermon. We've both had a wild Sunday. Diana's dealing with the kids. I had to go into work, so it's just this is these are the cards life throws at us. But we still find time to sit down here and talk. We adapt. We never react. We adapt. Everybody, remember, that's how we overcome any struggle that is thrown our way, is through adapting. So. Nonetheless, thanks for joining us. And we will, as far as we know, we'll be back next Sunday with another show. Don will be with us as well. So stay around for then. And of course, check out Diana's shows during the week and my shows during the week as well, and help support everybody and this independent media sphere. So other than that, guys, have yourself a great Sunday. Go outside, do something before it starts to get too cold, and take a breath in and embrace it, because even though we're here and we have work to do, we're also meant to cherish this and enjoy it at the same time. So go out there and do that. Have a good one, everybody. Take care.